Now we come to the first in the prequel trilogy, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Probably the one that left the most fans dissatisfied. Which, on one hand, I can kind of see, but on the other hand, there are things I like about this one. So let's start with the story. First of all, it takes place over 30 years before Episode 4, the original Star Wars, and it basically deals with a plot. There's basically two plots. There's a series of subplots and sub-characters that kind of set up what is going to happen in the other Star Wars movies, and then there's a more self-contained story about the Jedi helping out this peaceful planet in ridding themselves of a blockade by this organization called the Trade Federation. So where to start with this one? Because that's basically the plot in a nutshell. Oh, and they discover that a race of evil, not really a race, but an order of evil wielders of the Force called the Sith have reemerged after 1,000 years or thousands of years or whatever. So that's basically the story in a nutshell, and the acting is hit or miss. I mean, this movie, I don't know what kind of direction George Lucas was giving, but this movie manages to get really bad performances out of good actors, which surprised me. Well, first of all, my favorite character, and this may just be because I really like the actor, but my favorite character is Qui-Gon Jinn, the Jedi Master, who is played by Liam Neeson. And I don't know if this was intentional or not. Probably was, but his hairdo and his wardrobe and his overall look are kind of reminiscent of how he looked in Rob Roy, which, when I think about it, is a much better movie. But I digress. But Liam Neeson, he really exudes charm. He exhibits this great wisdom. You believe everything this guy says, or almost everything. I'll get to that later. And yeah, he's honestly the best part of the movie. I mean, he really sells this kind of I'm trying to think of the word. I had a word on the tip of my tongue and now it's gone. But he's very good in the movie. He's very charming. You get the sense that he's very wise. He's very experienced. He's been about a bit. So yeah, he's really good. The second main character is a younger Obi-Wan Kenobi, who is the apprentice of Qui-Gon Jinn, and he's played by Ewan McGregor. Now, Ewan McGregor, he doesn't really get much to do in this one, sadly. I mean, but in the other movies, he really comes into his own or at least in my opinion, he really comes into his own in comparison to all the other people as a young Obi-Wan Kenobi. I mean, he has the mannerisms of Alec Guinness. He kind of looks like Alec Guinness. So yeah. But again, he doesn't really get much to do with in this one. He's just kind of stiff. He's somewhat wooden and kind of joyless, as a matter of fact. I mean, he's very much a follower of the rules, and I'm not just talking about how he's written. I'm talking about how he's performed by McGregor. I mean, you get the sense that both through the writing and the acting, you get the sense that Obi-Wan is this really big follower of rules. He doesn't really have a whole lot of charisma to him. So apparently he developed his original Star Wars personality a bit later in life. I mean, possibly taking after Qui-Gon Jinn, who more closely resembles the Alec Guinness Obi-Wan Kenobi, and the actual Obi-Wan Kenobi in this movie. So I don't know. Maybe he's just taken after Neeson in the other ones, but he's not terrible. He's not given much to work with. I mean, he's frequently pushed to the side, which sucks because he really can act. I mean, did you see him in The Impossible? Wow. But anyway. One of the worst parts about this movie, in my opinion, is not Jar Jar Binks, because Jar Jar Binks, he's bad. He's annoying, but so were C-3PO and R2-D2. So, granted, not quite. I mean, they're not quite in your face to the extent that Jar Jar Binks is, but yeah, Jar Jar, not good. Not good. I mean, Lucas even admitted later that he put that character in the movie just to appeal to kids, mainly to appeal to kids, which really, I don't know. I mean, why couldn't you make him a bit more intelligent or a bit more competent or a bit less obnoxious? Because he's not like a He's not a purposefully malicious character, per se, but I mean, you just don't buy into his charm. You don't really get... I mean, he's not very endearing. He's just way too stupid. I mean, I get the feeling that they're trying to pass him off as one of those movie characters that's kind of dim-witted, but at the same time very endearing. Because he has a very likable personality and he's trying, but no, Jar Jar is just way too stupid. I mean, and I'm not even gonna get into the whole racist thing, because there are some examples in this movie where you could draw the kind of a racist argument up, not only with Jar Jar, but with the members of the Trade Federation who all have these kind of bug eyes with kind of squinted pupils, like really thin pupils. They kind of look like the eyes of a fly. And their mouths purposely never match up to what they're saying. Maybe it's not purposefully. Maybe the animatronics guys are really that incompetent. But they'll say a sentence like I'm not going in there with two Jedi, so their mouths will be like, I'm not going in there with two Jedi, or this is getting out of hand. This is getting out of hand. And on top of that, they speak in these really thick. I don't even know what accent they're going for. They're going for these kind of some form of Asian accent. I mean, some branch of Asia where these accents hail from. I mean, they'll talk like do you think she suspect an attack? It will be done, my lord. I mean, kind of that really kind of exaggerated, almost James Hong sounding Asian stereotype. I mean, and James Hong, he's not annoying or racist in any way, but if you kind of picture a really exaggerated James Hong performance, kind of like in Kung Fu Panda or in Big Trouble in Little China. I mean that, and kind of deepen it up a bit. I mean, deepen his voice. You basically get what all of these guys sound like. So I don't know what they were going for there, but yeah, Jar Jar's annoying. The Trade Federation is annoying, but but getting back to who I think is the worst performance in the movie is Natalie. Actually, no, I shouldn't say this. It's kind of a toss-up between Natalie Portman and Jake Lloyd. Because Natalie Portman, she is a fantastic actress, but she is completely lifeless in this movie. I mean, I don't know what kind of direction George Lucas I can't talk. I don't know what kind of direction that George Lucas was giving her, but she brings none of her ability to this performance. I mean, every single line out of her mouth is just this really flat, authoritative, really, really lifeless line reading. I mean, it's and it's not just her. Every one of the politicians sounds like that. I mean, every one of the politicians is just speaking like this. I mean, it's really annoying when they all talk like this because it's hard to get invested when you're so boring. I mean, there's no emotion. There's no there's just no passion behind this performance. I mean, and she's kind of partnered with Keira Knightley, who Natalie Portman plays the queen of this peaceful planet called Naboo, I think it's called. And Keira Knightley plays her decoy. Plays her kind of bodyguard / decoy, and they both speak in these really dull, flat voices. I mean, it's these very monotone voices, and it really gets on my nerves. I don't know if anyone else noticed this, but it really drains the life out of the movie when every one of their lines, it sounds like this. That I will not sign this treaty. But the other worst performance in the movie is Jake Lloyd. And I feel so sorry for this kid, because this kid really, you get the impression that he really wants to do something here. I mean, he really wants to give a good performance here, but George Lucas is just kind of and maybe I'm wrong on this, but the way the character is written, I mean, Anakin Skywalker, he plays young Anakin Skywalker, young 8 to 10 year old Anakin Skywalker, is just played as this kind of really 50s cheerful, gosh, gee shucks, gee willikers, sitcom style 50s stereotype. He is just irritatingly good-natured and completely incorruptible. I mean, why couldn't he be a normal kid? Why couldn't he be... I mean, whenever you see a normal kid, they're not this perfect little angel, or at least not all of them. Not the majority of them are not these perfect little angels. They play tricks. They're selfish. They want things. They're impatient. They're not these completely saintly beings who completely wholeheartedly take on any challenge granted to them. I mean, it's he's a boat anchor on the entire movie. I mean, whenever he and Jar Jar are on screen, I mean, it just brings the whole thing down because it just comes off as trying to distract us from the plot. I mean, yeah, Neeson is good. I mean, Liam Neeson is very good in this movie. Who else? Ian McDiarmid is alright, although you don't really see much of him. I mean, Ian McDiarmid reprises his role from Return of the Jedi as the Emperor, but he's not the Emperor yet. There's no Empire. I mean, it's the Galactic Republic. And Ian McDiarmid plays this senator who's who's supposedly trying to help out, but at the same time he's kind of working on getting elected as chancellor, because he wants to covertly usurp the chancellor position from this other guy who's supposedly doing a bad job. And the chancellor that I am referring to is Terrence Stamp. Terrence Stamp, he's given nothing to do. He has maybe like 5 lines, if that. I mean, I don't know what they were doing casting Terrence Stamp in a role where he only has like 5 lines, and none of them amount to any sort of character. I mean, in fact, he's come out recently and said that he found this movie boring. But yeah, it's. What did I like about the movie? Because I'm tackling all the negative here. I liked the creature designs. Again, these creature designs and these planet designs and these ship designs are very creative. They're very inspired, but what's kind of distracting, and at least for me, is how fake they all look. I mean, there is scarcely a real effect on screen, if ever. I mean, probably 90 to 95% of this movie has a blue screen effect in it. I mean, is that really? I mean, why can't we display these creatures practically? I mean, whenever it just shows a barrage of creatures on screen, I mean, you don't buy it because they all look digital. There's just no impact. I mean, you don't really get the same feeling of, wow, something's really there, as when something actually is there, whether it be a puppet or an animatronic or whatever. But what else did I like? Oh, I liked the bad guy. I like the bad guys because Ian McDiarmid, he's covertly pulling the strings. Not exactly not exactly a surprise that he turned out to be evil, but I also like his little lackey / apprentice, who is one of the Sith Lords, and his name is Darth Maul, and he's this really intimidating looking, sort of ninja looking guy with these red and black. I mean, his face is completely covered in these kind of red and black tattoos, and he wields this double-bladed red lightsaber, almost like a staff. And he's played by Ray Park, so of course he's doing all these kind of acrobatic feats and jumping around and really giving the Jedi a run for their money. I mean, it's which leads into the final lightsaber duel, which is very good. At points it can look a little too rehearsed, but for the most part, I really like the final lightsaber duel. I mean, it's suspenseful. It's very well handled. It's very well shot. It takes place through all these different levels of this, what looks like a reactor room on the Naboo planet. And it doesn't go on for too long. I mean, just when you start to get the impression it's going on for a little too long, just when you start to get hints of that, it's over. So it goes on for just the right amount of time. So I really like the final lightsaber duel. But with that said, can I really call this movie a good movie? Really, my impression of this movie is I mean, it's just a great big pile of I mean, the story about a trade blockade is pretty weak. It's, I mean, the characters are either bland or completely. The characters are most of the characters are bland and lifeless, and I keep using these words, but it's really the best way to describe these characters. I mean, they are just a boat anchor on this whole movie. These characters and the performances that these actors give. I mean, these with a few exceptions, you know, like Liam Neeson and who's the other guy? Ewan McGregor tries, but he's not given much to do. Ian McDermott is alright. Ray Park, even though I said I like Darth Maul, he doesn't really have much of a character. I mean, he's like Shan Yu in Mulan, in the Disney movie Mulan. I mean, he strictly goes for intimidation. He doesn't really talk a whole lot. I mean, it's just the intimidation factor. And for the most part, that works, but it's not really as compelling as a villain who actually talks. I mean, so it's really not very impactful when he dies. But with that said, Ray Park does handle the stunt stuff very well. I mean, it sets up these. Like I said, the designs are very good. I mean, the designs are very inspired. They all look very creative. It looks like this world is inhabitable, but the thing that really keeps you from being immersed in this world is the script and the acting. I mean, which is at best overall it's subpar, and it's only elevated to subpar by the few exceptions to otherwise really boring performances. So yeah, I have very mixed feelings about this movie. It's I mean, I don't harbor the same hatred for it as a lot of other Star Wars fanboys do, and I'm actually finding that a lot of younger Star Wars fans tend to like this one. So I don't know, maybe it'll get an audience sometime in the future. But yeah, it's not as good as the original trilogy. And I can see why it disappointed a lot of people, but I don't hate it. I mean, to me, it's perfectly watchable. Does it have its problems? Yeah, but I've seen a lot worse. But yeah, I get it. It's a disappointment. It's a slap in the face to those of you who really wanted to see the next really great Star Wars movie, and you just had to settle for So yeah, I don't know what else to say. It's at its very best, it is passable, and yeah, that's really all I got. I knew I was forgetting something. I forgot to talk about the midi-chlorians. You know, this probably contributed. This is probably one of the most, if not the most, significant cause for anger by longtime Star Wars fans toward this movie, because this basically, it comes off less like an expansion of the lore and more of a retcon, because it's in the original trilogy, the Force was this kind of mythical, almost it was this kind of mythical, intangible energy field that to quote Yoda, surrounds us, binds us, and flows through us. And the Jedi were so powerful. The Jedi and the Sith were so powerful because they basically wielded this. They wielded this energy field. They could harness its power, and they could basically become at one with this. And the Phantom Menace is telling us that no, Jedi Jedi do not. The Jedi do not have this kind of. They just have this kind of natural gift in the sense that they are born with a high count of midichlorians, and midichlorians are basically the literal representation of the Force. They are a physical representation of the Force, because what they are, and this is getting back to the Liam Neeson thing, where you almost believe everything he says. When he's telling little Anakin Skywalker, like midichlorians are a microscopic life form that live. They're a type of microscopic life form that lives inside us. I mean, they live in your blood cells. And the more midichlorians you have, the more powerful a Jedi you will be, or the more naturally gifted you will be in terms of learning to use and wield the Force. So you've just taken this really spiritual concept, and you have just completely, I don't want to say destroyed, but you have greatly diminished what made it special in the first place. You have, I mean, I can see why a lot of fans were pissed off at this, because it ruins the illusion. I mean, that's what it does. It ruins the illusion, and yeah, I cannot believe that they did this. Midichlorians, I mean, the only reason... Oh, and also, I'll get to this, but one of two reasons that the Jedi take Anakin Skywalker into their order and agree to train him as a Jedi is because of his very high midichlorian count. I think Qui-Gon takes a sample of his blood and sends it to Obi-Wan, and he's like, "Hey, get this analyzed. How many midichlorians are there?" And Obi-Wan's like, "It's over 20,000." What he really should have said it like is like Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z, like it's over 20,000. I'm sorry, I had to do it. I had to make that joke. No matter how poorly it was executed, I had to make that joke. But yeah, that's one of two reasons. The other reason is because apparently Qui-Gon believes that Anakin Skywalker is the chosen one in this prophecy about this being that will supposedly bring balance to the Force. Okay. This was never mentioned in the original trilogy. I mean, in the original trilogy, basically all we got was Darth Vader was a Jedi who turned to the dark side. I mean, it never said anything about this prophecy. I mean, what made it tragic that he turned to the dark side was the fact that he was such a great Jedi. So, and I don't know why they added this particular plot point. Maybe it's an attempt to make Anakin Skywalker seem more important to the grand scheme of things than he actually would be if he was just a regular Jedi. But I don't know what they were thinking with these two ideas. I mean, the story we got in the original trilogy was enough. I mean, the fact that Anakin Skywalker was just a very gifted Jedi, and he was friends with Obi-Wan, but he eventually lost his way and turned to the dark side and killed all the Jedi. That was enough. You didn't need to add this extra bit. I mean, it just makes it kind of more convoluted than it needs to be. So, yeah, that's my thought on midi-chlorians. Doesn't change my opinion of the movie. I still think the movie is passable. But yeah, that's just a huge slap in the face. That would be like if in Lord of the Rings, I keep bringing up Lord of the Rings, but that would be like if in Lord of the Rings, turns out the magic that Gandalf and Saruman and all the other wizards use is just a light trick that they can pull off due to setting some plants on fire with matchsticks or whatever. I mean, these exploding plants on fire with matchsticks. That's very unnecessary, very very disappointing revelation. Really would destroy any mystery, any mystical intrigue behind the concept of magic and wizardry in Lord of the Rings, or Harry Potter for that matter. I mean, you don't need this kind of explanation in a fantasy work such as this. I mean, it's thankfully they don't really bring it up too much in the other movies, but yeah, it's up there in terms of biggest slaps in the face in fiction. So yeah, it's midi-chlorians.